How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan, talking about an interesting trade concept for Cardinals outfielder Dylan Carlson. Now, this is an interesting player, and, Derek Gould of a St. Louis beat writer over there suggested that the Cardinals could be interested in one of the Yankees' top pitching prospects, or maybe not top pitching, but one of their elevating pitching prospects, a guy that's been kind of climbing through the system. He's now in AAA, struggling a little bit over 11 innings, but was really good in AA. And we're talking about Clayton Beeter, who we acquired in the Joey Gallo trade last year with the Dodgers. So looking at Dylan Carlson, I'm going to break him down for you, give you guys some insight into what he would bring to this Yankee team. This is probably the most realistic trade proposal that you're going to see since, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, we can talk about him all we want, but the probability is very low. Dylan Carlson and the Cardinals are going to be moving players. Carlson's one of those guys they can move. So he definitely fits the bill, and you definitely have some insight into what he can offer this Yankee team. But Ryan, before we dive into it, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. This is kind of the most interesting trade deadline we're going to have in a good amount of time, right? Obviously, you have the massive variables of Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto, but as you mentioned, right, like what does that percentage chance look like? I don't think that percentage chance, especially for like Juan Soto, I think that's a pipe dream. And then Ohtani could get a little interesting. I think I saw a report where like John Morosi apparently said the Angels could consider it. But even then, you have to compete with so many other teams. Everyone's going to want Shohei Ohtani. I mean, this is the best player in baseball. But is Dylan Carlson the best player in baseball? No, but is there talent there? Absolutely. He's a former top 100 prospect. He's still 24 years old. If you look at some of the underlying metrics here, a 35.9% sweet spot percentage, a 7.9% barrel rate, 25.4% chase rate, and a 335 expected weight on base average all suggests he should be a better hitter than he is right now. He's dangling a little bit above league average at a 103 WRC plus. He's struggling with slugging, which is something that he's kind of consistently struggled with in his career. He's had years where he's put together decent power numbers, and then other years where the power's not there. His 342 on base is encouraging, right? Like he could totally go out there and be a solid leadoff guy for the Yankees, especially considering this team struggles to get on base. But you imagine the slug needs to get a little bit better before you buy into this guy as, a difference maker offensively. Alex and I actually discussed this a lot over the offseason. We're like, imagine if the Yankees had league average left field play. Well, it feels like that's Carlson's floor. It feels like that ceiling could be a really good left fielder. Could he be a 110 to 115 WRC plus hitter? Projections think so. And again, at the age of 24, you can't, end the story of Dylan Carlson's career. It's not like he's had a bad major league career. He's just been a little disappointing. That's all. The defensive tools are there. The speed tools are there. Overall, this is the type of guy that if you're able to figure out the pull rates and figure out the swing, he might be able to go out and take advantage of that short porch in right field. If you get 15-ish, 20 home runs, somewhere in that range out of him in his prime with his OBP skills, you'll probably get a consistent 3 to 3.5 WAR player. And again, considering he's a switch hitter, the Yankees kind of need someone to stabilize that leadoff spot. I think he makes an excellent option for the Yankees. And considering, as you mentioned, Clayton Beeter, like that's a guy of interest to St. Louis. They need pitching. The Yankees have abundance of pitching prospects. Could they move a guy like Clark Schmidt in this deal? Maybe, right? Kind of like how last year went down. Not that Schmidt's a bad starter. Same way that Montgomery is definitely not a bad starter. Will these guys start in the postseason? Probably not. So do you go out and try to, flip him for an asset that will help you in the postseason? And it's a controllable asset in Carlson. It's not like you're trading for a rental. And then you try to acquire a starter that does give you a shot in the postseason. Perhaps, again, like Schmidt's kind of in a weird spot where, you kind of trust Herman a little bit more than him in big games, not because Herman's significantly better, but because Herman can actually get you into the 6th or the 7th inning reliably, where Schmidt can't really do that. And then, again, some of the top pitching prospects like Will Warren, is he going to beat out Clark Schmidt for a starting job next year? Could Clayton Beeter, if he's still here, do that? Could Richard Fitz? Could Drew Thorpe? Could Chase Hampton? Chase Hampton was in the Yankees top 100. I think he's their top ranked prospect, not named Oswald Peraza, according to Baseball America. Like they have a lot of guys who are going to fight for starting spots next year. Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, I didn't even mention those two guys. So is Schmidt really going to have a long-term future here? Who knows? And maybe that could be a situation where the Yankees and Cardinals have a match again.
Absolutely. I mean, look, this is a guy who has we would have theoretical control over until 2027. So, we talk about Cody Bellinger, we talk about some of these other guys, the rentals, right? They come in and, they're not altogether long-term pieces. You could extend them. But the thing is, Dylan Carlson's a decent player with a lot more upside to have, in my opinion, and I think you would agree. And he's cheap as hell. Like, you're getting a player that's extremely cheap, allows you to spend in other places. And he's not going to cost you a whole lot to acquire because the Cardinals are in sell mode. They're looking for pitchers with high strikeout numbers, and he's only 24 years old. So it definitely makes a strong case to kind of actually take over a nice spot in the outfield and specifically in left field, because ultimately, Judge, we don't know when he's coming back. He's still no timetable for return. This is a player. And you mentioned the idea of even having Dylan Carlson lead off. So like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that he would be a good leadoff hitter? He instantly, 103 WRC plus, nothing to write home about per se, but he instantly becomes one of our best offensive weapons, which is kind of sad to say, but you're hoping that Sean Casey can turn these guys around. The Cardinals, not the best team, obviously one of the worst teams in the game at the moment. Maybe there's a little bit more potential there for the second half of the season if they try to get his launch angle up, hit a couple more homers in the short right porch in Yankee Stadium. But why do you think he could be a serviceable leadoff hitter for this Yankee team?
Yeah, so the Yankees, in terms of on-base percentage, if you look at everyone who's taken at least 100 plate appearances, the leaderboard is Aaron Judge at 404, Anthony Rizzo at 348, and then everyone else is below where Dylan Carlson's at right now at 342, as I mentioned earlier. So Carlson will be one of your top guys in OBP. He works a lot of walks. You don't necessarily want to throw Rizzo up there because that's not really where it works best. You feel like Rizzo works best behind Judge. Hopefully, Sean Casey being around can help loosen these guys up and get these guys back to where they need to be. I feel like if Rizzo just connects with one home run, man, I think he's going to be able to turn his season around, but it's a monkey on his back right now. It's been over a month, so he's got to get that turned around. But can Carlson stabilize the lineup? Yeah, I think he can give you, also a switch hitter. So, you never really have to worry about platoon advantages or splits. You kind of just hope that he's able to give you a competitive at bat against whichever handed pitcher's up there. Also gives you a nice little lefty righty thing going on. I've suggested the Yankees should go out and get, Heimer Candelario, who I think would be a great fifth hitter. If you have him and Carlson, you have Carlson leading off, Judge second, Rizzo third, Stanton fourth, and Candelario fifth. You have a lefty splitting up Judge and Stanton everywhere, right? And that lineup feels deeper too. Now your 6 hitters, Gleyber Torres. Now your 7 hitters, Harrison Bader. Your 8 hitters, Anthony Volpe, right? Now you go from, oh my God, this lineup's full of automatic outs to, hey, this lineup's full of some pretty good at-bats, right? And Sean Casey discussed this, the amount of quick outs in the lineup, right? Not saying that Sean Casey wants to get some of these guys punted off the team, but more so just working on their approach in that regard. Yeah, this team needs to take more pitches. Yes, this team needs to be a little less aggressive. Yes, this team needs to control the strike zone. A lot of these guys excel at that, right? Anthony Volpe coming through the system excelled at controlling the strike zone. And then he comes to Major League Baseball and he's swinging at everything, right? I understand that, aggressiveness is a part of being a young prospect, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. And I don't think any prospect evaluators thought it'd be this bad. I think a lot of people were thrown off guard by that. And I think that has a lot to do with what, Dylan Lawson believed was best for Anthony Volpe versus what's actually best for Anthony Volpe. And I'm not going to sit here and blame Dylan Lawson for everything that went wrong with the Yankees. End of the day, it's up to the players to perform. And if they can't perform, I'm not going to sit here and put that on Sean Casey either, right? We saw Eric Thames get scapegoated. We saw him get fired and, it didn't work out. And the Yankees still had to, they bring in Dylan Lawson from the system and he gets fired a year and a half later, right? I think they had to move on from Dylan Lawson, but, end of the day, the players have to perform. But I think Dylan Carlson would be in a good situation here. The Yankees, for all the crap we can give them, right? There is something to be said that, guys like Jake Bauers who were, with the organization took a career turnaround, right? Like his career is completely different now. He's actually a major league caliber hitter. Someone would want Jake Bauers. I love Jake Bauers. I think he's great. Is he a starting outfielder? I don't know. Maybe he's more of a DH. But Harrison Bader feels like he's had, better offensive success in New York or has a better approach at the plate. Before this year, LeMahieu completely turned his career around in New York, right? Trevino had a career year last year, became an all-star, went from a backup catcher to an all-star. Rizzo revitalized his career here. There are plenty of guys who have taken steps forward. Hell, IKF is having the best year of his career here. So there are things that work for the Yankees as an organization. Maybe it's the messenger, not as much the message. And maybe Carlson benefits from that. You automatically think of that short porch in right field when you think of a switch hitter and a guy who's got good contact skills and good control of the strike zone. I think it's a breath of fresh air for the Yankees. I think it's something they sorely need. I think you're tired of seeing right-handed guys go up there, swing at sliders down and away and feel like you have no chance.
I mean, that's exactly right. We're tired of seeing this, and ultimately, we could use a switch hitter. You know what I mean? Like Aaron Hicks, when he was in his prime and actually performing well years ago, it was nice to have that switch hitting kind of bat in the lineup. And having a player that, has really good numbers against lefties, is good against righties, and has a little bit more upside at 24 years old and plenty of control. The Yankees, now you can say to yourself this, though, like if you lose Harrison Bader, you look at where Dylan Carlson has the majority of his defensive reps, center field and right field. You know what I mean? Like if you lose Bader, maybe you say to yourself, Dylan Carlson can play center field and you go out and get a left fielder a little bit cheaper or whatever it might be. Maybe you pull up Everson Pereira, see what happens. I think that's certainly something to consider. But or Stanton, you still got Stanton who could play left field, and you have Judge playing right. Mitigate the injury concerns, even though that wall in LA does not do many favors. You kind of look at the situation here and say, worst case scenario, Dylan Carlson can translate to center field, and you have a backup plan in case Harrison Bader ends up walking in free agency. So we'll see what happens. I like Carlson. I think this is probably one of the more realistic things, and for what it's worth, like Shohei Ohtani. All the big guys like Passan, Morosi, Buster, like all those dudes are saying that the Angels may end up trading him. Like there is a possibility that could happen. And if they do, the Yankees are going to be in the mix. The Yankees are going to be there. Like we have, Ryan, you just posted on the Fireside Yankees Twitter channel. And guys, if you haven't checked out the tweet, definitely go check it out and follow us over there. The Yankees, according to Baseball America, have 6 prospects in the top 100 list. You got Oswald Peraza, Chase Hampton, Jason Dominguez, Everson Pereira, Austin Wells, Spencer Jones, and you have a couple guys probably right below that, like Clayton Beeter. And this is definitely a team that has plenty of farm pieces to get a deal done, to move to move guys for Ohtani or whatever it might be. But if you go out and get an Ohtani, you got to be 100% certain you're going to extend him, or you're going to have the first shot at extending him at a massive deal, because picking apart your farm system for a half a year rental is not a good move. Like objectively, I don't think it's a good move. But if you have the leverage to extend him and he's going to give you the first say, you probably take the chances, Ryan, you alluded to yesterday. But guys, definitely excited to hear your perspectives below. Dylan Carlson, is he a championship winning move? Probably not. But it's also a long-term perspective here because you have control over him for multiple years. You can build an outfield with him in the mix and, have an above average bat at the same time. So certainly a long-term strategy here, but nonetheless, obviously a hype to hear your perspectives below in the YouTube comments. And as always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.